Hello? Thank you for having me, guys. Any PrimeVue users here? Okay, cool. Good to be back. Okay, PrimeVue belongs to a set of family. We have PrimeVue, Prime Faces, Prime React, and Prime NG. And the common question I get is which one is the harder and which one is the easier. I think the PrimeVue has been, for a component library author like me, it's the best one. I mean, we can do whatever we want with it, but sometimes with other libraries, that's not always the case. And we have reached 150 million downloads on NPM, and it's growing every day. So who develops this stuff? It's developed by PrimeTech. We are passionate about UI component development. I've been doing this since 2008. I'm trying to find the best UI component ever, and my journey continues. And this is a snapshot of PrimeVue. We are trying to be the most comprehensive suite for Vue. I think Vue.js really deserves something really great, and we are on our journey. And today, I will just start with what we have and conclude with what we will have, which is the next generation. So we have 90 plus components. More components are coming up. These are open source, free to use, under MIT license. It has built-in accessibility with WCAG compatible, which is cool, is styled and unstyled, which I will cover. We have a lot of icons. You can style them with Tailwind. We have a lot of Vue.js templates and Prime blocks, and we have a nice UI kit as well. So it's, as you can see, a lot of stuff going on at the PrimeVue landscape. So the answer, let's say, I'm trying to figure out for all these years is what makes a UI component good. And I'm still working on this, but I think the answer is that there's no single answer because there are different types of users. One user just wants something easy, nice looking thing. They just grab it, they just, let's say, data table, tab view, and they just use it. And some other user may have different set of requirements, like they want to build their own UI library on top of your library. So different kinds of cases and different kinds of users. So PrimeVues, I mean, we've been doing this for 15 years now, and we've done a lot of mistakes, I gotta admit, and we have done some good decisions as well. And we just said, and like a couple of years ago, before we just trying to revamp PrimeVue, and last year it got picked up. So thank you guys for choosing PrimeVue, or you're considering that for your next project. So the good UI component, I think it should provide you, it should not get in your way. It should provide events, templates. You should be able to customize it the way you like it with any CSS library of your choice. You should be able to use it as it is with the API, but you should be able to access the internals, which we also provide. Okay, so 90 plus components, all on NPM. We don't have just the simple stuff like avatars and input text. We also have some advanced stuff like the data table with row grouping, in-cell editing, scrollable virtual rows, everything is included, but you can get them one by one. Of course, maybe I think like you need 30 of them when you develop an application, but even if you are developing a simple UI, a simple application, you need just a calendar. You can use it from CDN, you just can get the calendar, it's tree shakeable. Or you're just building enterprise project. You can get the heavy stuff like the tables and grids and as well. This actually killed us like a couple of months ago. We were getting some criticism about accessibility, and we just stopped everything, like all the cool UI themes, components. We just say, okay, let's just pause them, and let's just focus on accessibility. We spent months, and I'm glad to share that like by the end of November, PrimeVue components are WCAG compatible, and we have a lot of users checking, auditing the components, and they are really providing nice feedback about it. It's not just like adding a couple of area attributes, so it's not like that, I gotta say. I personally read the specification twice maybe, because it was kind of complex. So we use semantic HTML whenever we can, because that's the best way to implement accessibility. High contrast for colors, and keyboard accessibility for everything like drop-downs and even tab view accordions. And whenever we cannot use semantic HTML, even that hidden semantic HTML. For example, if you use a toggle switch, we actually use a hidden checkbox inside, but the browsers think that that's a checkbox. Okay, so PrimeVue is kind of unopinionated when it comes to design. You know, you see this trend. Some users have, there's a library that focuses on material design. Some library focuses on Bootstrap. Some library focuses on some other thing. We don't have an opinion on this. I mean, it's subjective. Everyone has different taste, right? So we provide our own design. We have 3 excellent designers in our team. We call it the Prime One, our own style. And we also provide different styles. Like if you like material, you can use the material theme with it as well. So here's a short demo about it. I have this float label here somewhere. Yeah. Okay, so here I have, this is the normal one, float label, but if I check it with the material design, it becomes, so you don't need to switch a library to use material design, you just switch a theme. And we try to do our best to mimic the material design and things like that. It's all included. So this is, if you check out the PrimeVue, and I can switch it. So, 1 second. Okay, cool. So, as I mentioned, you don't need to switch libraries to go from material to Bootstrap or something. You just make a configuration, change the theme. Or you have your own. How many of you in your companies, do you have your own style guides, or do you have been tasked with implementing style guides? I mean, so it's, I'll get to that. We have some stuff for that. Okay, styled or unstyled? I'll also ask you a question. I made a poll on Twitter, X. We got some results I will also share. So, as I mentioned, there are 2 types of users. One, they want the styled mode. They want someone, professional designer, developer, created these components. They just want to use that with some customizations here and there. And some other users, they don't want it in style. They just want accessible components that can do row grouping, virtualized lists, and that's for team unstyled. And the results were 50-50. Some users go with the route of styled, and some users go with the unstyled route. So styled mode is like a traditional library. Like, you know, we provide an API. With the CSS variables, you can change the look and feel. And we have a new theme. Since, as I mentioned, we have just taken care of accessibility, we focused on creating nice look and feel, which is called Aura, which is our new theme. I hope you like it. It replaced Lara. But the interesting part, as I mentioned, styled mode is what you expect from a traditional UI library. But unstyled mode is that we decided to remove all the styles. For example, here you have an input text, and what it renders is that it renders some classes, and those classes are on the page. They style the component, right? But with the unstyled mode, which you can enable it globally, so it makes the entire UI suite unstyled. It removes all the classes. So you don't need to override. I mean, the pain that we can, when we work in, maybe some of you have some bad experiences with UI component libraries, because you have to always override, you have to learn APIs. Sometimes you cannot override with scoped CSS is taken over and things like that. What with unstyled, you have the pure, transparent components that are accessible and functional. As you can see now with unstyled, it doesn't render anything. Another nice thing about it is that you also can remove the style on a particular component. So it's not just enough to remove styles, right? You have to find a way to make them stylable, which is the pass-through. So pass-through is, so we are exposing the component internals. So these components are created by someone else, in this case, me and our team, right? So we have decided that it should be, you know, the drop-down should open, we should display items, but with pass-through, you are able to access all the DOM elements inside the components, in case you like. For example, we have an anatomy of here, you can access the icons, the filter icon, every item in the drop-down. So the most common case is to style them. For example, here, in this case, this one's using, I will also have a tailwind example. So the root is the main element. You can add a class. The items are the ones per item. You can add area attributes. You can add data test IDs and event handlers to the click icon. So the problem that we've been having for all these years is that So you need to contact the library maintainer to ask for a property, right? Okay, I need this click handler on this so that I can implement this. Now, we have just exposed everything in a generic way. We are not getting a lot of issues for requests because everyone can access the internals, for example. I have a nice example about this as well, which I will cover. And the nice thing is that these pass-through configurations can be injected globally, which lead us to the Tailwind CSS project, actually. I had this example. So there are two syntaxes, which was released last week, the declarative version, in case you don't like the first one. The first one is the programmatic approach, which is not very common to date on a particular component, but you can just access the component internals. And the other one is the declarative one, which is inspired by HTMX, so that you can add classes, add attributes, add click handlers to the component internals with the declarative API as well. So here's an example that I can just explain. So I was going through, trying to help the people on Discord, our users, and one user asked about how can I reset the filter when they click on this search icon. That search icon is there for cosmetic purposes, just to indicate that it's a search field. So in the traditional way, I had to go and add a net property like on search icon click. And I had to pass some properties and things like that, which the user can do. But with pass-through, the user I provide a solution, and the user was able to clean the filter because they are able to bind event handlers, anything internally. So pass-through is there. So once we have pass-through, okay, we have the unstyled. Now let's put them together to build something interesting. So we have different libraries. So you've seen, I think there's a Vuefy for Bulma, Vue.js, you have Bootstrap Vue. I mean, libraries come and go, and you're kind of have some maintenance issues as well, which is not the case with PrimeVue, but that happens. Also, you know CSS. So these libraries can be used with unstyled. We have some examples about it, like you can use the Bootstrap. But there's one library that fits great to this unstyled, which is Tailwind. How many of you guys are using Tailwind? Wow, yeah. Then I made a good choice. I think this trying to move the ship close to the Tailwind coast. Okay, so the Tailwind presets, forget about the styled mode. This is like freestyle, guys. You can just, there's no API, strict API, no CSS variables. You can just use regular Tailwind. But it will take time to for you guys to figure out the component internals, to find out which classes to use. So that's why our team, led by Atakan, created this Tailwind presets project. And the Tailwind presets allow you to style the components with Tailwind. And we have just last week finished everything. All the more than 80 components can be styled with Tailwind. And we provide two presets. One is Lara, kind of bootstrappy look. And the second one is Wind. And the third one, Aura, is planned for next month as well. And these are reactive. You can switch from one preset to another. You can build your own presets. A preset is actually a set of Tailwind classes bind. The nice thing about it is that the component doesn't know that it's styled with Tailwind because the Tailwind is injected through those pass-through that I mentioned. The component, this makes PrimeVue future-proof because, as I mentioned, we have been doing this for a long time. I've been working with jQuery, the libraries come and go, and with this, I think you can use it with any CSS library. As I mentioned, just the preset gallery, it's freestyle. I've created some examples, like how to implement the material input, glassmorphic login, material input switch, like in case you like the Shatsy and the black and white look and feel, you can implement it with a pure accordion, no borders. I've used a toast component to implement, and more people are contributing to this preset gallery and share their designs with the ecosystem. And another part is that some users have been tasked with building their own UI library. That's a pattern that I've seen more lately because companies have their own style guides. They have to implement their own design, and in case building a data table from ground up will take a lot of time. A drop down, you have to worry about accessibility. keyboard bindings, the functionality, and things as well. And the most common pattern is the styling, I think, which I've seen. I mean, the functionality is always, I mean, as I mentioned, in 2005, we were doing a model, but we were using, there were no box shadow property available back then, so we were using another div, and there were no border radius back then. So, but the styling just changes. The functionality is, everyone needs a sortable table, right? But what you sort is up to you. So with build your own UI library, idea is that you use these components in unstyled mode to build your own library. And people have started lately building their own in-house. They're trying to replace their in-house library with the PrimeVue-based ones so that they can do some, get rid of the maintenance costs. Okay, so let me show you an example. I have some code as well. We are going to use the input switch to build our own toggle switch, which is like the material look and feel. The normal input switch in the Aura team is kind of looks like a regular input switch. Let me show you this from code instead of the slide. 1 second. So we built our own SFC single file component and style with Tailwind, and then use it as toggle switch. Okay. Okay, that's the project. I have my toggle switch here. Let's see. I'm using the prime input switch, which is my input switch, and I have the PT options. And here is my, you can see that prime input switch has a preset, and the preset is your own Tailwind classes. And I took my time to implement this with Tailwind so that I can just mimic the material design. And just I'm exposing it and wrapping the component. And let's see how it is used. It's like this, where I have a toggle switch, and just this is your own, this can be called my toggle switch, right? And let's check out, I should have a demo somewhere as well. I lost cursor, coming soon. Okay, so this is the toggle switch. Actual toggle switch that we created was this one. Okay, but in case your style is like this one, which I checked, get it from Material 3. And then another interesting thing is this accent mode, which the core input switch doesn't have. We don't have an accent mode, but I am able to access the component internals here, type accent. This is my arbitrary attribute, and I get it from $attributes type, so that even though we don't provide properties, you can just get them because Vue is doing an excellent job here, as I mentioned. The inert attributes thing is a dream for a component library author. So you can add attributes and extend them, wrap them. Vue also allows passing slots so that you can also do panel components, dialogues, and models as well. And I'm glad to share that people are building their own UI libraries based on this. Okay. And let's move on to the Figma UI kit. So another pattern that I started seeing lately, I mean, as a developer, I didn't really care about Figma. I mean, that's not something I use every day. I just get it to export stuff that our team designed. But there was a huge demand on Figma UI kit because what we've seen so far is that people the companies invest in their design team, and then the flows changed, and now we first need to see the design on the Figma, and then so the design teams were asking for our drawings of our components. So then we created the Figma UI kit. All the components are there, which the designers in your team can access and come up with their designs. Prime blocks is another add-on. So if you use Tailwind, they have Tailwind UI. In our case, we have the Prime blocks. We have more than 450. That's the pattern that I've seen lately for UI component libraries. They create, we cannot provide everything as a component. We have too many, you have so many options for a navigation bar. Blocks have 10 variations with different designs, but we also have a core navigation bar as well. With the stats, logging forms, we have more than 450 Prime blocks, which you can just copy and paste. These are not really Vue components. These are reusable blocks, sections of code that you can copy and paste. and build your own UI libraries and pages. And the with templates are for people who like everything set up them, so they can just start with what they're kind of opinionated. Like, for example, we have an Apollo. This is not the Apollo you think. This is some other UI Apollo. This is. And so we have, for example, that one, 7 different menu types and different designs that you can choose from to start. And there's one, free one as well, Sakai, which is from my favorite PlayStation game. And, okay, that is what we have now. And what we will have, let's spend the last 7 minutes on what we will have, which I call next-gen version. Okay, now, one thing I'm personally not happy with is because we were, as I mentioned, we were doing this for 15 years, when we always, every 5 years, we have to clean up the technical debt. And one remaining part is the theming of the stealth mode. This is currently based on SAS. We have to compile themes. You have to change the primary colors, you have to do SAS compilation, and that's on another repository. And that's a bit chunky. There's no easy way to tree shake this. So, I mean, you may get some unnecessary CSS in your applications. But this has been fixed. If this conference was a couple of weeks later, I was going to show you that some beta release, but actually this is fixed on v4 branch. So the new version is based on purely CSS, no, so because I'm just thinking that SAS is going to, I mean, will lose its popularity because we now can use nested CSS nesting, right? CSS variables. I mean, I frankly don't want to invest my time in SAS anymore, except maybe just the mixins might still be interesting. So we are switching to design tokens. Design tokens are like logical tokens, and they map to Figma tokens, Figma variables on Figma, and they map to CSS variables at code side. And these are, maybe you've seen this pattern if you're into design. This is the common trend as of late. We have the primitive tokens, semantic tokens, and component tokens. Primitive tokens don't have any meaning, like blue 500, like a tone of blue, right? No meaning. Or green 500, or P3, like you've seen from Tailwind, like P3, some sort of padding, right? But the semantic versions have their own meaning. For example, we use P3 that maps to the input fields padding. Blue 500 maps to the primary color, and font bold maps to the header font weight semantic. And those semantic ones map to the components. For example, the form field padding map to the input text padding, primary color maps to buttons or something else, success color maps to the toast message background, so that you can use different tokens. You can switch tokens. For example, you can replace the primitive tokens with the material colors. Semantic ones can be different as well. And with this approach, we have created, as I mentioned, this is done, but it's on v4 branch. So we have different bases, prime one, and the bases will include the CSS, and the presets will provide the tokens. So the CSS will be like the placeholders that use tokens, and you just feed them with the tokens. We will have a different set of tokens, Aura, Lara, and different ones, and we will also have a material base as well. For example, this one is a more complicated example. We have the material base now, and you can have preset dense or material 3. You can switch between 2 and 3, because as I mentioned, you don't need to rewrite the library. You don't need to use another library. You just switch tokens. You can provide your own tokens. If you have your own design system, you can extend tokens, or you can build your own tokens. And CSS layers are, I think it's vital for UI component library in case you find, because we ship in stealth mode, we ship some CSS, and sometimes you may need to overwrite them. But hopefully with v4, you don't need to know about these classes. But in case you just, as a last resort, you will be able to turn CSS layers on and off. But I really suggest turning them on, because you don't need to worry about overriding, because your CSS will always override the prime CSS. And CSS variables, we don't want to pollute the DOM with a lot of CSS variables, like p checkbox border, p checkbox something. In case you want your DOM clean, there will be an option like CSS variables post, and we will just map these tokens to their hardcode values instead of generating them as CSS variables, so that when you check out the developer tools, you don't see any p CSS variables, which is optional. And okay, this is I've been dreaming about Figma to theme generator, because we have the UI kit, the code. How can we map these? I mean, the most common question is, okay, our designers created this nice-looking theme, but now the developer has been tasked with implementing this, which is not always the simple solution. Now we are mapping these tokens to our Figma UI kit as well, and writing a Figma plugin, so that with one click you'll be able to generate these token sets from Figma directly. That eliminates this manual coding, working with two screens. Okay, this is the Figma, this is the code, because I've personally done that when creating implementations. Figma to theme generator is coming as well. And we had a UI designer. In case you'd like to use a separate, you're not messing with Figma, let's say, you just want the tool. We are also working on the UI design. It will be a SaaS app. It will be online, where you'll be able to access the component internals and style them the way you like it, and it will give you a theme. PrimeFlex was a CSS library, but now we are going to sunset it, and we are going to provide migration tools as well, in case you are using PrimeFlex heavily. Our suggestion would be, since to move to the unstyled mode, we are not really depending on the CSS library, and we don't want to maintain a CSS library on our own. We just want to integrate with what you have. And the replacement is that your CSS library, like Tailwind, if you're going to use it, or we are also providing layout and typography components as well. And we created an internal team challenge. I requested the design team, okay, we will implement these components, but I don't want to demo them in a simple blue boxes and just wrap. Let's give us some cool designs that we try to implement them. And they created these nice looking designs like movie app, mail app, dashboards, and we will implement them purely with the new components, and we will open source them. And they will be actually on the landing page, the new upcoming landing page. And in case you like to use them, which are nice. So there won't be any Tailwind version for this for now. We will use the new components as a challenge. Prime CLI is done, actually, but it's coming, I think, next week, coming out next week. It gives you we have wrapped the Next and the Vite starters, so that it gives you PrimeVue out of the box, and it gives you migration assistance as well. And Tailwind Preset Manager, right now you have to download the Tailwind presets and have to add them to your project. There's no NPM on Tailwind presets. With the CLI, you can just say, okay, PrimeVue, get me drop down for Tailwind, and it will get it from the GitHub, and it will update it for you. Okay, let's wrap it up with the roadmap. I was actually really bad at estimating, but now I'm getting better, because I usually had 2 more weeks to my original estimate. It usually holds up. So the new theming API is actually done, and we are actually end of February. The layout typography components are done on a separate branch as well, and we are replacing our PrimeFlex-based blocks to Tailwind blocks. And in March, later in April, we will start working on the Figma to theme generator and UI designer. We've been users were requesting some form library from us. We are kind of trying to work with it as well. RTL support is coming out in the next quarter. Material 3, we have Material 2. We will also offer Material 3 based tokens. And Aura will be implemented as a preset for Tailwind. Now, we are component library authors. That's what we do every day. So full-time, 15 people in our company are working on. So right now we are inventing the components. But now it's time to challenge the complex stuff. That's our job. Now, after we finish these tasks, we will create some advanced components like event calendar, so that you can drag and drop. First, we need to do the drag and drop utilities. Then we will do a spreadsheet. We have done this 10 years ago. The spreadsheet, we will do it again. And UI builder will be like the drag and drop with the blocks, and so that you can build your own UI libraries. Flowchart and Gantt chart and HTML are coming up. I think next year we'll see maybe charts. I'm not sure. Charts look kind of a bit challenging. Maybe next year we will do it as well. But we do it yearly, actually. This is what we have right now. So thank you. So these are our team members. They work on the PrimeVue and other libraries every day. And I must say, I've been actually, due to my nature of my job, I've been involved with other communities, but as we were talking, I mean, I've never seen any community like this, so welcoming, because we get bad words on Reddit sometimes, okay, your components, because you cannot make everyone happy. I mean, but something special about the nature of Vue.js community. I mean, so welcoming, which it was started as a, okay, let's port it to Vue, and now we just kind of feel some, you know, different things. So thank you for welcoming PrimeVue and to the Vue.js ecosystem. And thank you. That's it for me. I hope you liked the presentation.